Hello. All right, I wanted to share a little bit about my new unit, Intro to Psychology. This is more of a high school level study, but like always, I think that one of the beauties of homeschool is that you can choose how you want to facilitate things, that you can choose to introduce your students to subjects earlier if they want to, if they're interested. And if you're going to use it with younger students, you're just going to accommodate for your individual student. So if you're using this in a public school classroom, stick to high school. But if you're homeschooling, I would say grade 8 and up, maybe 7. Depends how much you want to explore or accommodate. Sorry, wrong word. All right, so I don't have the course outline printed out because this is for my student. And the course outline I keep on my computer, but there's 21 lessons plus a student directed study project. So in Saskatchewan, where I am, that's a big part of high school level sciences, is that they have an opportunity to study something of interest within the field on their own. They figure out how they're going to learn about it. They just keep a learning log. They decide the topic as long as it's within the parameters of the industry or science, and then they decide how they're going to present their final project. So it's a great way for them to really take hold and ownership of independent learning. So I would say this unit will count for roughly 50 to 60 credit hours, depending on how long your student takes and things like that. But that's what I would feel comfortable giving it, which means that in most places that wouldn't count for a full high school credit. Usually that's between 100 and 120 hours. That said, the reason I kept it to what's contained in here is because I already have fairly extensive units on Intro to Anxiety and Nervous System Regulation and Intro to Mental Health, Minds Matter. And if you were to add those, plus the Mindscapes guided research and essay project, that one is all about like perception. So if I were to look at the Saskatchewan curriculum outcomes, and outcomes vary widely from province to province and states and other countries and stuff like that, but it's just a way for me to kind of like look at what is like a general idea of what the outcomes they would want covered at a high school level. So even if you're not in Saskatchewan, don't let that dissuade you. It's still going to apply to these broad outcomes. There might be like slight variations, but you're still going to have like an extremely comprehensive and solid understanding of psychology when you get through these. So you could just do this unit on its own, but if you are looking to give like an equivalent to a high school credit for this, then I strongly recommend including Minds Matter, the Intro to Mental Health, because then we talk about stigma and social aspects and depression and things like that. So it just gives like some of those things that I didn't put in here because I know I already have that covered. And then we have like the nervous system regulation and the biological processes of like anxiety and panic, looking at things like fight or flight and coping mechanisms and healing from panic disorder and stuff like that. So that is all in the Intro to Anxiety and Nervous System Regulation unit. And then a lot of the outcomes also had to do with like our perception of reality, and you can find that all in the Mindscapes guided research project. And it gives also like a different way to learn because their end goal is to write an essay, but they go through things like hypnosis and I forget the word, but like group like memories that are like false memories, deja vu, just like all these different parts of perception, right? So if you combined all of those together, it would be quite a bit more than your 120 hours. But you could pick and choose parts of it and stuff like that. But if you want to just like blanket statement, know you've covered it, those are the ones I recommend. Anyways, this one, 21 lessons, plus the student-directed study project, it'll take, I would say, probably 2.5, 3 months, depending on how fast you go. The lessons aren't all neat and tidy in like a 1 hour lesson. Some of them are going to take you more. So everything's outlined in the course overview, and I don't have that printed, like I said, but you can download that on the product. And then I also included a grade book. So it's very simple for you to come here and add grades. It'll give you like, think like psychologist, that's like asking questions like a psychologist. It's basically a complete or incomplete form of assessment, 1 point per section, and you just mark it like that. Other ones have rubrics that you're going to use to grade some of like the more involved assignments, and the rubrics are all included in the study. So the student directed project, it just gives like the overview because they're going to be deciding on their own topic of study and then working on it throughout the course. They'll pick the timeline, they'll pick how they're going to present it. Could be a slideshow, could be a video, could be a pamphlet, could be an essay. It's up to them. So all of the lessons in this study have 4 main features. I think 4? I don't know. We'll see. The first is a hook page. So you'll see this little symbol there. And the hook page is just to like incite curiosity. It just wants to like get them engaged. It's a great discussion starter. So this one is answer the questions based on what you think. So why do people cry at movies even though they know they're fictional? Why do people stay in unhealthy relationships? Why do people insist they have the same shoes or clothes as their peers? Why do people freeze or forget what they're going to say when they're talking to a large crowd? So it's just going to get them thinking about human behavior and how the mind works. Then we're going into the reading. So the reading is always going to have anything you need to know about the topic. You're basically getting like a textbook and the workbook and the projects and assignments all in one. Just because I find like it's just nice to be able to like grab that, right? Obviously, always encouraged to add supplemental material, go down rabbit trails, side quests, whatever you want to call them. But if you just need something, pretty comprehensive, it's all here. So it goes through the reading, and then there are prompts, so it's like, what questions do you have about human thoughts, feelings, and behaviors? Gets them thinking. Then we're going through the history of psychology. What do psychologists do? They have to take their information from the reading, figure out what the branches of psychology mean, and then they're doing this activity, think like a psychologist, where they're asking questions like a psychologist. So what questions would a psychologist in the realm of education want to ask? What about online gaming? What about social media? What about workplace? So that's the activity for this one. There's also this other mini activity where we're talking about the 4 dimensions of being, and then they're going to choose an event in their life and figure out how each of the dimensions played a part. And then there's this feature that comes at the end of every lesson, which are the psych notes. And they can imagine themselves as a psychologist, who's like studying and trying to figure out, analyze things. So it has 4 prompts for them to answer that gets them reflecting about the lesson that they just went through. So which branch of psychology do you find most interesting? Why does it stand out to you? Which branch or perspective of psychology do you think would be the most useful for understanding teens today? Which of the 4 dimensions do you think is often overlooked in our culture? So just gets them thinking. So then we go on to another hook page. This one, we're talking about the scientific method in psychology, and the hook is research proposals. And the student has to decide, are you going to approve this or not? So a researcher wants to see if people eat more popcorn when the bowl is bigger. So would you approve it? Would you not? A researcher wants to see if fear improves memory by showing people a graphic horror film before the test. So it gets them kind of thinking about ethics before we spell out that we're going to be talking a little bit about ethics. So again, going through the scientific method. Anytime there's a video that would really help them to watch, there's a QR code. These are clickable in the PDF. So you can click the PDF or you can scan it with a device if you're looking at the paper version. So the videos are included. And then we're going to write up the SMILE Reciprocity Lab as scientific method. Then we have the psych notes. So this continues. Here's an example of the rubrics. So it's all there, super easy for you to grade and be able to give a grade if you want to. You don't have to. You could make your own rubric. You could grade it differently. That's fine. Parenting styles. So again, the readings are very interactive. So in this one, this one isn't parenting styles. This one is about personality. So they're looking at the Big Five model, and they are quickly assessing as they learn about the Big Five model where they think they sit. And then they're eventually going to take an online test and then reflect on that. And then they're going to develop their own style of classification for personality. So yeah, I don't have even all of it printed yet. I still have about another 100 pages to go. But there's just loads of fascinating topics in here. Social behavior. We're talking a little bit about cults because I thought that would be really intriguing. And, you know, add a little shock value that the teens love. So everything's there that you need. The graphics are all consistent, colorful, gives them something to look at. The whole kind of theme or style of this one is that mid-century modern vibe. So yeah, bit of a ramble, but hopefully that gives you a better look so you can see if this is a good fit for you.